The Seattle Seahawks are making some of the most head-scratching moves of any team this offseason in my opinion. The team moved on from their star wide receiver DK Metcalf, they released their franchise legend wide receiver Tyler Lockett, and traded away their starting quarterback Geno Smith for only a 3rd round pick just to replace him with Sam Darnold. A very confusing situation over there in Seattle, and today we're going to be breaking it down, talking about the situation. What are they doing? Is it good? Is it bad? That's what we're diving into. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. We're trying to hit 10K this year. 72% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed. Double check, it's free, and it helps me and the channel out a lot. So the Seattle Seahawks kicked off their 2025 offseason in a very weird way. And why don't we start from the most recent news and work our way back? So on Monday, the Seattle Seahawks signed quarterback Sam Darnold to a 3-year deal worth nearly $100 million, essentially replacing Geno Smith after trading him to the Raiders for a 3rd round pick. Sam Darnold was one of the biggest players in free agency this offseason at a premium position at the quarterback spot, who ended up signing with the Seattle Seahawks after a breakout season in 2024. Sam Darnold signed with the Minnesota Vikings last offseason after being the 49ers backup quarterback in 2023, and he was brought to the Vikings on a 1-year, $10 million deal to basically be the bridge quarterback so that they could develop rookie quarterback JJ McCarthy, who they picked 9th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. Sam Darnold ended up being the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings after JJ McCarthy would have season-ending meniscus surgery before the season even began. Majority of people thought the Vikings would end up going 6-11 or something like that with Sam Darnold at quarterback, but they didn't. Darnold actually led the Vikings to a 14-3 record, which was the 2nd best in the NFC, tied with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions, and it was also tied for 3rd best record in the NFL behind the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Sam Darnold had himself a breakout season, putting up 35 touchdown passes, 4,300 yards with a 66 completion percentage, and in his previous 6 seasons in the NFL, he never had more than 20 touchdowns in a single season and never had more than 3,100 passing yards in a season as well. So this is a huge year for the quarterback. Some have argued, though, that Sam Darnold was not as good as he was, and it was more so the situation around him that made him good. Having Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, a great defense, Aaron Jones, it's a fair argument, and if I'm being honest, I honestly think Sam Darnold is a 1-year wonder who was just put in a good situation in Minnesota and had success there. But then you pull up clips like this throw he had in Seattle in front of his new team, and then you're like, maybe it wasn't him, because this is a ridiculous throw. Feels pressure, steps up in the pocket, gets hit as he's throwing deep, game on the line, and finds Jefferson for the game-winning touchdown. Like, this is a pretty crazy play. Kevin O'Connell didn't make that throw for him. That wasn't a crazy catch from Justin Jefferson. He put that where it needed to be. So while he was in a good situation, he also did make some plays himself. And maybe 2 things are true. Sam Darnold had a breakout season and he looked really good, and he was also in a good situation. 2 things can be true, and maybe that's what the Seattle Seahawks saw. A good player put in a great situation. After signing Sam Darnold to their team, the Seattle Seahawks are reuniting him with their new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who the team hired earlier this offseason after firing Ryan Grubbs. Clint Kubiak was the 49ers passing game coordinator in 2023, and Sam Darnold was the 49ers backup quarterback in 2023, so the two definitely have a history together. They've worked together before. And Clint Kubiak must have liked what he saw there, and then must have really liked what he saw in Minnesota from Sam Darnold, and now they will be the 2 offensive duo in Seattle. Mike McDonald said their former offensive coordinator Ryan Grubbs, his offense was not how he envisioned his offense as a head coach, after ranking 28th in rushing yards per game. Mike McDonald wanted a better run-heavy offense to match his defense, which led to the change at offensive coordinator. The Seahawks offense as a whole ranked 21st in scoring, 8th in passing, but wasn't a balanced offense, and there really was no run game for them. Luckily for them though, hiring Clint Kubiak is exactly what he wants, because Clint Kubiak, first-hand experience, is a very run-heavy first system, scheme, and play caller. He will run the ball to the point where it gets annoying. Now, the Seattle Seahawks had a void at quarterback to sign Sam Darnold because just last week they traded away their starting quarterback Geno Smith to the Raiders for only a 3rd round pick. This was very confusing and very shocking to just the NFL world in general. I did not see this coming. I thought the Raiders were going to sign Russell Wilson, but they ended up trading for Geno Smith, reuniting him with the Raiders. Apparently, there were some contract issues with Geno Smith and the Seahawks, and now he got traded to the Raiders, and he will get a new contract extension at some point from the team if he hasn't already. So that trade is what led the team to end up signing Sam Darnold. And I'll say this. I think Sam Darnold is a one-hit wonder. However, if he's not, though, this works out great for the Seattle Seahawks. They traded away 34-year-old Geno Smith, didn't have to give him a contract extension, got a third-round pick in return, and they signed Sam Darnold, who is younger than Geno Smith, might end up being cheaper than Geno Smith, got an additional draft pick. It is a win-win situation, and he fits what Clint Kubiak, their new offensive coordinator, wants to do. Again, though, it's a pretty big risk. Geno Smith was a proven quarterback in their system who did a lot with not a lot of help around him in terms of the offensive line, and trading him away was just super surprising to see considering the team won 10 games in 2024. Trading away Geno Smith was not the only move the team made, however. They also traded away their star wide receiver and one of the better receivers in the NFL in DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick. This move was at first confusing, but then it started to make a little bit more sense because DK Metcalf signed a 5-year, $150 million contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you just know the Seahawks were never going to be paying him that much. He's a good player, but he is definitely not worth that much money, and the Seahawks got good compensation. They got a second-round pick in return. They can use these draft picks that they got for Geno Smith and DK Metcalf to add to the receiver room or offensive line room, or maybe trade those picks to get a good veteran player from another team or something like that. If I'm being honest, I would have traded DK Metcalf for a second round pick and not have to pay him that much money. However, though, trading away DK Metcalf did leave a void, and a very, very big void at wide receiver for the team after they also released Tyler Lockett, which freed up $17 million in cap space. Releasing Tyler Lockett was probably something the team had to do. For cap reasons, it was probably just time to move on. Franchise legend. However, though, it probably did feel like it was time for both sides to move on. But trading away DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett left their wide receiver room very, very thin. Right now, they still have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who just had a breakout season for the Seahawks, as their number one wide receiver. They have Jacob Bobo, but the wide receiver room does need to be addressed now, almost more than ever. Jackson Smith-Njigba's role, though, now for the Seahawks may change drastically. It's easier to have a breakout season when you have a big body wide receiver complementing your style of play in DK Metcalf. He is gone. Can Jackson Smith-Njigba be a number one receiver in the NFL if they don't find a guy to complement his play style? And I'll say this from a Saints fan. We are very upset with how Clint Kubiak utilized Chris Olave in his system and how he wasn't getting enough targets and such. So I'm hoping he learned from that experience and is willing to get this guy the ball and also get him a running mate opposite of him to take some of the bigger hits over the middle and make those contested catches. The Seahawks will definitely have to address their number 2 wide receiver spot in the draft or free agency and add some help at the pass catcher position to help out Sam Darnold. This whole situation is just rather confusing to me because the Seattle Seahawks are taking a rebuild approach. They finished the 2024 season with 10 wins and just barely missed the playoffs. And this was in their first season under a new head coach in Mike Macdonald after losing a Hall of Fame head coach Pete Carroll. I would say most people would consider this season a success despite not making the playoffs. 10 wins in your first season is a great starting point. At least that's how I would view it. But maybe Mike Macdonald, their head coach, wanted to make some changes because players on that roster were Pete Carroll's guys and he wanted his own guys and to build up his own roster and have his own identity as opposed to basically taking over someone else's team and just running it. But at least now the Seattle Seahawks know who will be throwing the ball for their offense and be their starting quarterback in 2025 as they signed Sam Darnold, who is someone the team will have to build around to support. We saw him struggle with the Jets. We saw him struggle with the Panthers. Not great supporting cast. Can they build around him and allow him to be good? Sam Darnold is not going to save the franchise, but he's someone that they can win with as long as they build around him, and one of those building pieces has to be the offensive line, which is a pressing need for the Seattle Seahawks and has been one of the biggest issues on the team as of recently. And we saw Sam Darnold struggle in the playoffs under pressure with the Minnesota Vikings versus the LA Rams. So if Seattle is going all in on Sam Darnold, they have to build up the offensive line. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season, and they're going to regret trading away Geno Smith. Let me know what you make of the Seahawks signing Sam Darnold down in the comments below. I think this whole situation is very, very weird. I'm not a big fan of it, but if it works out, no one is ever gonna have an issue with it. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Peace.